The couple's car unexpectedly breaks down during a trip, so they seek shelter in a retired soldier's home. What they don't realize is they're about to become pawns to his deranged fantasy. Dan and Trina are on a long road trip through a remote area surrounded by towering trees and misty mountains. As they drive in silence, a heated argument erupts about the wife's supposed infidelity and the husband's recent unemployment. The confrontation soon grows physical, leaving them both emotional, although eventually they fall silent. The man pulls over and asks his partner if she plans to stay inside, but she ignores him, so he steps out. Unwilling to be left alone, she grabs her backpack and follows. They spot a roadside eatery and decide to grab a meal. Dan pays and thanks the cashier while Trina searches for a place to sit. Just then, his younger brother calls, so he assures him they're only 4 hours away with the rain. As he heads toward his wife, he accidentally bumps into a stranger and quickly apologizes, but the man reacts harshly, causing the situation to escalate quickly. Trina rushes over to intervene, but the confrontation turns into a fistfight, causing damage inside the eatery. During the scuffle, she's shoved to the ground. He helps her up as the stranger tends to his wounds. Angry and embarrassed, the wife drags him back to the car as he continues to insult the stranger. They resume driving, but Trina needs air and asks Dan to pull over. Confused, he complies, and she exits the car and walks to a nearby shore, hoping to gather her thoughts. The husband follows but stops short when he sees her sitting alone, staring at the water. After a moment, he quietly joins her, and his wife shares her frustrations. Dan listens and apologizes sincerely, admitting how hard it's been for him to manage his emotions. He draws her into a tight embrace, causing her anger to soften. So she smiles and playfully pinches his cheek. The two become intimate under the quiet sky. Later, laughing and relaxed, they dress in the car and continue their journey. His brother calls to update them that their father is walking again. Dan is relieved by the good news and promises to call back. As they continue driving, they pass by a military checkpoint. Soldiers inform them of an ongoing operation, redirecting traffic to a newly constructed highway. The driver tries to convince them to let them pass since they're close to their destination. The armed men refuse, so Dan reluctantly turns back to take the longer route. As they travel along the detour, the night deepens, and Trina wonders where they are. The husband reassures her that he used to drive on the road on his motorcycle. Eventually, the fog thickens, forcing him to roll down the windows so he can see clearly. The road becomes darker and more desolate, and Trina grows uneasy, noting the absence of houses and reception. While Dan remains focused on the road, he jokingly says they'll just ask anyone they find. When they see a small house, the driver stops and speaks with the resident who confirms they're on the right path, but warns that the area is private property. Trina feels relieved by the reassurance, but the local urges them to turn back. So she tells her husband to reconsider, reminding him they're trespassing. But Dan refuses, pointing out how far they've come and how unlikely it is they'll be caught at this hour. Suddenly, their car begins to smoke and stalls, alarming his wife. He checks the engine but can't identify the issue, and her repeated questions fuel his frustration. The man tries calling for help, but there is no phone signal. Overwhelmed, he lights a stick and decides to wait for morning. Irritated and tired, Trina sleeps in the back seat while Dan remains outside and feels uneasy in the shadows. The next morning, Dan tries to restart the car but fails. Frustrated, he checks the engine again, but nothing works. So he tells Trina he is going to walk and look for help. Retracing his steps, the husband returns to the small house they passed the night before. But it's empty, so he disappointingly walks back to the car. Meanwhile, Trina notices a man approaching with a rifle over his shoulder and dragging a carcass. Setting it down, he offers to help. Cautious but relieved, she accepts it. Jimo introduces himself and asks if she's alone, so she mentions her husband. Without a word, the man inspects the car engine while Trina watches him carefully. Moments later, Dan returns and immediately asks her if she has a phone signal. She checks, but there's still none, and he then notices the man. He asks if he can help push it, but he doesn't respond and simply stares blankly. Dan loudly repeats himself, and the stranger finally talks, wondering how far he wants to take it. Dan wants to get to the edge of the road or the nearest mechanic. Finding it difficult, Guillermo proposes bringing the car to his house, which the driver agrees to. Once there, the man gathers a few belongings and invites the couple inside. He introduces them to his wife, Lala, who offers them a warm but wordless smile. They sit at the dining table, exchanging cautious conversation. Suddenly, the sharp crackle of static from a two-way radio interrupts them. Dan uses it to ask for help and request a mechanic, but it's not working. The house owner responds for him, promising to call again tomorrow once someone's available. Later that night, the couple steps outside, arguing quietly about their unsettling situation. Guillermo joins them and informs them that the mechanic will arrive in the morning. He offers the man a drink, but he declines, explaining they're exhausted and just want to sleep. The house owner glances at the woman, who also refuses the kind gesture. He then offers them a room inside the house, but again, they politely refuse, choosing instead to sleep in their car. Dan gives Guillermo cash in gratitude, so he accepts it and tells them to call out if they need anything. In the car, the two share their unease about the local couple, but try to brush it off. Inside the house, the man removes his clothes and necklace, then lies down beside Lala. She initiates intimacy with her husband, and the two begin to make love gently. Meanwhile, Dan is consuming his usual calming stick while watching his wife sleep. He leans closer, and Trina stirs awake, smiling at his presence. They start to share a passionate exchange when a silhouette watches from the shadows. The wife notices the figure and gasps, instantly pulling away and wrapping herself in a blanket. Alarmed, the husband grabs the weapon from the glove compartment and steps outside. He scans the area, but the darkness reveals nothing, so he returns to the car. The following morning, Lala knocks on their window and invites them in for breakfast. Dan asks about the mechanic, but she ignores the question and says that her partner is out back. In the backyard, Guillermo cooks over a fire while the two-way radio hums beside him. The husband approaches and wonders about the car technician. The homeowner avoids answering directly, before finally muttering that the mechanic would come later. Unconvinced, he nods slowly and turns back toward the house. Inside, he takes a seat beside his lover, who gestures toward the food. He shakes his head and quietly pours himself a cup of coffee, and without a word, he steps back outside. Lala sits down beside Trina, who thanks her for the meal. From the window, they see Guillermo sharpening a knife while his partner tells stories of how he used to be a soldier and have a family. Back then, his daughter got pregnant out of wedlock, so her mother forced her to get rid of the child. She took her life afterwards, but so did her mom out of guilt. Guillermo hears his wife gossiping and angrily chops the meat while looking at them. Meanwhile, Dan grows increasingly frustrated as he struggles with the car. Trina approaches to check on him, but he confesses he has no idea how to fix it. Overwhelmed, he curses at the engine, so she tries to calm him down. She begins to share how Guillermo has been hunting down the man who took advantage of his daughter, which disturbs her husband. Their conversation halts when they both spot Guillermo at a distance, calling him to eat lunch before heading to meet the mechanic. Inside, the couple joins the house owner, who leads a brief prayer before sharing a meal. The atmosphere is tense, so to lighten the mood, the couple asks about the retired soldier's past. However, he refuses to answer and wonders what Lala has been telling them. Trina denies this to protect the woman, and an uncomfortable silence settles over the table. After the meal, Dan asks his wife if she has any phone signal, but she still doesn't. Guillermo descends the stairs with a machete and tells him it's time for them to find the mechanic. While Trina watches them walk off, Lala threatens her to leave, but she thinks nothing of it. Later, she tries to get a phone signal, unaware that the woman is watching her closely. During their walk, Guillermo tells Dan he has a wife and wonders if he needs help getting her pregnant. He then rambles about his beautiful daughter and how he resisted the urge to make love with her because he's religious. The soldier accuses the man of ruining his life and suddenly lunges at him with the bolo. The husband narrowly avoids the blade and fires his gun, but misses, eventually losing his weapon as he defends himself. Hearing the shot, Trina runs toward the sound, while the two men tumble down the mountainside, locked in a fierce fight. Eventually, Guillermo gains the upper hand, smashing him with a rock to weaken him. He pins Dan down, striking him repeatedly before strangling him with his belt. The husband's screams echo through the trees until he finally loses consciousness. After the act, he hides the lifeless body and makes his way back. On the road, he crosses paths with Trina, who anxiously asks about her husband, but he remains silent and keeps walking. Alarmed, she flees into the woods to hide, so Demo searches for her but eventually gives up. Once he's gone, Trina cautiously returns to search for her partner, only to stumble upon a body. Confirming it is Dan, she breaks down in grief and cries. As night falls, the woman runs through the darkness, sobbing, until she reaches the small house they had visited before. A new stranger emerges, approaches her, and gently calms her down. She trembles as she recounts everything that happened and begs for help. He calls someone to care for her and leaves to alert the neighbors. Not long after, the man returns with Gamo, causing Trina to scream for help. Instead, she is dragged away and locked inside a hut, where she sobs and begs to be freed to no avail. The following morning, the couple brings her food, and Lala unlocks the door to hand it to her. She tries to escape but is quickly overpowered, so she breaks down again while the mysterious man locks the door. The next day, he watches the hut as he's sipping coffee. Eventually, he retrieves a flashlight and peers inside. Seeing the captive lying weak in the corner, he unlocks the door and brings her to the house. Lala bathes her while Gamo silently observes. Then he steps forward, visibly restraining his anger, and begins speaking about why he took Dan's life. Once clean, the woman is brought upstairs and seated in a corner. The soldier hands her fresh clothes, which she accepts wordlessly, still in shock. He begins treating her like a daughter, speaking to her softly and guiding her actions. His wife watches silently as the household adopts a twisted dynamic. Later that evening, they head downstairs for dinner, and Lala sets the table as her husband plays the part of a caring father and helps Trina to her seat. Gamo prays solemnly over their meal, then instructs his wife to take care of their daughter. The captive remains dazed as the man prepares her plate and urges her to eat. Despite her confusion, he continues feeding her, pleased that she's eating. After dinner, he helps her back to the bedroom, and as they approach, they notice Lala trailing behind. Gamo says nothing and leads the captive inside, so Lala listens from outside as her partner begins to pray aloud. Inside the room, Trina trembles in fear, tears silently falling. When the man finishes the prayer, he asks her to sleep with him, promising not to hurt her if she obeys. She reluctantly agrees, so he caresses her face and forces a kiss, ignoring her sobs. He grabs her hair, tries to soothe her, and lays her on the bed. Her cries grow louder as he forces himself on her. In another room, Lala sits in the dark, weeping at the sound. The next day, Gamo, now cheerful, takes a silent Trina outside along with another man. He proudly shows her his vegetable garden and orders the man to make coffee. Trina remains numb as they continue until they reach a small hut. The retired soldier steps away briefly, and when she sees he's no longer in sight, she seizes the opportunity and runs. The stranger carrying coffee spots her, so he sets them aside and immediately chases after her. As she runs, two more men intercept her, blocking her path. Meanwhile, Gamo realizes what's happened and hurries into the hut to retrieve his handcuffs. With the help of the three men, they capture the woman and forcibly bring her back. Outside, the captor stands waiting with the cuffs as they drag her to him. He secures one cuff to her wrist and the other to his own, preventing any further attempt to flee. Still shaken, Trina stays silent as Gamo resumes showing her around the property, pointing out random sights and speaking incoherently. Once they return, he frees her and begins sharing old photographs. His voice trembles with emotion as he tells stories from the past. The captive, overwhelmed, quietly weeps while examining the pictures, slowly uncovering fragments of the family's history. By nightfall, Gamo plays music, his voice breaking as he sings while the two women listen. In between verses, the homeowner recounts his hardships and sacrifices as a soldier in Mindanao. Eventually, he rises and gently urges Trina back to the bedroom, while Lala watches as the two disappear upstairs. The next day, the woman starts living like a captive princess, accepting her fate. To keep her from escaping, Gamo fastens her to different corners of the house at different times. At one point, Lala brings clothes for her, and her husband eagerly inspects them, but his mood darkens when he notices items missing. Enraged, he strikes his wife while Trina watches helplessly, unable to intervene. That night, when the house is quiet, Lala slowly ascends the stairs. She pauses outside the bedroom, then quietly makes her way to the third floor. After hours of waiting, she descends, gathers her courage, and gently opens the door. Inside, the two are fast asleep, so she tiptoes toward the altar, retrieves a key, and carefully frees Trina. Startled but alert, the captive awakens, and Lala whispers urgently, telling her it's time to go. The woman rises quietly, and downstairs, she thanks the woman, who explains that she cannot let this continue. She swiftly opens the door, but before they can step outside, Gamo appears with a weapon in hand. He aims it at them, trembling with rage, so the wife steps in front of Trina, speaking calmly, desperately trying to reason with him while the captive seizes the chance to escape. Gamo shoves Lala aside, and in the confusion, his weapon goes off. When she collapses on the ground, he realizes what he's done and screams her name in regret. Far from the house, Trina runs blindly through the woods, tears streaming down her face. Behind her, the unhinged soldier yells Yana, his daughter's name, while firing shots into the air. Another shot rings out, startling her and causing her to stumble. She hides behind a tree, gasping for breath, as Gamo draws near. He finds Trina and aims his gun at the sobbing woman, who pretends to be his daughter and begs him to stop. Believing it's Yana, he puts his weapon down and softly reprimands her rebellious nature, claiming that he only wants to keep her safe. The father reminds her of how her boyfriend ruined her life and asks her to come back to him. In tears, she tries to reach him beneath the madness, saying she's not really Yana. For both of them to be free, she painfully tells Gamo he needs to accept that his daughter passed away. The man falters as his eyes fill with tears, though when she hears him cock the gun, she freezes in fear. Trina watches as he slowly turns the weapon on himself and pulls the trigger. As he falls on the ground, she screams and flees into the night, eventually making it to the road, finally free. Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.